Hello and welcome to Warblog. Still not quite finished this, but this is the new mega map. I'm definitely not going to go any bigger than this. I'm on my sort of laptop as usual, but I've actually got a larger screen. So if you've got a larger screen, you should be able to get all this in one go. I don't want to do too many of these large ones. I want to sort of get back to the small ones in the majority of cases. But when a battle is a big one, I think it sort of deserves a little more space. And I've been meaning to do this for a long while. This Congo War. There's a few of them. This is the first Congo War. It's actually Zaire, and then it became the Democratic Republic of the Congo, not to be confused with the Republic of the Congo, which is just here. So essentially, Zaire was a dying state, and I'm not sure exactly what's what, but there was a lot of exchanges across the borders between Zaire and the rebels that were in Zaire going into Rwanda and I think into Burundi, and basically causing chaos. Then there was let me have a quick look. There was the Banyamulenge rebellion. This followed the Rwandan genocide, which preceded the events. All sort of part and parcel of this. But anyway, then there was the Banyamulenge rebellion in eastern Rwanda, and that started a lot earlier, back to as early as sort of 95. But essentially, the main rebellion took place on the 31st of August. Now this begins in October, so you can sort of see on here some what do you say that? Banyamulenge units. You've also got some AFDL insurgents and irregulars. So these are sort of behind the lines sort of units. But we have Zaire, which is quite a big country, as big as, well, I think it's as big as Europe or something. Massive, apparently. You can just look at it on the map. So there was a rebellion here. Now the Rwandan government. This is going to play mode because it's incredibly interesting. Because when you look at it on a map, what you'll see is Rwanda is only 2 hexes, and that's what it's all about. And all these troops come out of Rwanda. Burundi is like 50% larger with 3 hexes. So there's this little tiny 2 hex country about to invade this country. But they were backed by the Ugandans and by a lot of other units. So the AFDL used the Banyamulenge rebellion as an excuse to invade. And they sort of did it in 2 steps. They pretty much invaded the eastern half and took control of that, all this sort of section here. And they were sort of happy with that because it gave them the gains that they wanted. It meant that whatever this sort of ethnic tension between the countries are could be sorted. The refugee camps could be returned. Rwanda, I think, had a shortage of manpower, so they wanted all these refugees who had fled Rwanda to return. I'm not sure exactly what the background is because it's all quite complicated, and so I'm just really just trying to get from A to B as quickly as possible. Just produce the map, just produce the game. So, but anyway, I mean that's basically sort of what happened, and then essentially a couple of other things happened. In particular, Angola then joined. So, but they don't join until about February 97. So there's a sort of between December 25th and sort of early February when there's quite a pause in the battle. Now, there's masses of units, and to be quite honest, I have no idea who will have the upper hand. There's no air power in it, because it doesn't mention any air power. There probably is a little bit, but I haven't bothered to put it in. Maybe later, but then I'd have to put air defense units, etc., etc. 1 minute. Yeah, so I mean, there's absolutely tons of units. So we've got the AFDL, which is essentially it's pretty much an amalgamation of. It's an alliance, so it's basically French-based, I think. Well, it's the Alliance of Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Congo, which is what the official name is. It's a coalition of Rwandan, Ugandan, Burundan, and selected some Congolese dissidents, disgruntled minority groups and nations that toppled. I'm just reading from there. So basically, it's a group of units. So some of them are sort of duplicated additionally, but I'm putting these as the these units here as AFDL in their own right. But we've also got Ugandan units. Now I might be doubling up here, to be quite honest. I mean, it sort of says Ugandan, Burundan, but there's also talk of UNITA units, not a lot of those, but also units from military forces from Zambia, Zimbabwe, Eritrea, Ethiopia, South Sudan, Zaire, Sudan, and mercenaries. Yeah, so what I was saying, I'll just pause for a sec now, but it could be that I've duplicated a little bit of the manpower. The Wikipedia thing says that Zaire, so AFDL had 57,000 units, 3,500 Rwandans. To be quite honest, I think I'm happy with the balance that I've got. It doesn't mention the total number of Ugandan units, and I don't think that they. Well, it does elsewhere, but not in the sort of the immediate strength list in the Wikipedia article. Anyway, not to worry about that. Basically, as it stands at the moment, we've got that stack there is probably, well, it's a lot. Well, basically, you get about 50 units come on in this hex here, which is Rwanda. Everything comes out of there. I mean, that is the biggest stack, but they come on staggered. So, turn 2 you'll get a few more, turn 3 a few more, etc. These are the actual Rwandans. These black ones here are the Ugandans. Up here you've got South Sudan. Here, which is a bit ironic actually, because underneath there, I might have to change that. That is a Sudan unit. They're actually fighting for Zaire, and these ones are fighting for South Sudan are for the AFDL. So that's the Rwandans. We have the some Ethiopians that come on, and some Eritrean units there. We got Zambian units down here. These people have come all the way up from Zimbabwe. Angola comes into play on turn 26. And to be quite honest, I think, no matter how you look at the numbers, that is going to, that's going to be the end of it, really. So, and there are plenty of other units sort of higgledy-piggledy mixed in. One of the other things that's sort of quite interesting is Zaire has its own army, but they have this sort of Interahamwe, which is almost which is almost as strong as the Zaire army. Yeah. So, I mean, the Wikipedia says between 40 and 100,000. So I've actually given the equivalent of, my notes here say 70,000. And there are only 55,000 Zairean units. But still, I mean, that's 55 plus 70, which is like 125,000 units. I mean, this was a big war. It didn't take that long, and so I'm really not going to even start playing it. I'm going to go and play another game almost immediately after this, just because I feel like a bit of R&R, but the Tanzania one, Uganda, Tanzania. It's quite a big game, but I just feel like just going into it. I'm just introducing this one, but this it just seems to me to be incredibly interesting. It's one of these games where you actually have to think a lot just to figure out where the units are, and even just to realise which units are your own. I admit that some of these counters are a bit hard to see. For example, these are a bit hard on the eye. These ones are sort of camouflaged. But I just like a lot of these African units because of their colourful sort of the colours that you can apply to them. I mean, for example, these Eritrean units, they come from, their colours were set a long time ago before I started being a bit more adventurous with the colours on the counter. So this is boring old blue, So, but it's one of these games where you've got so many different units. It's actually quite hard to figure out who's on whose side. I think you figure out eventually. I think another issue with this game could very well be, and it's common with a lot of games, although a lot of games actually have an additional solution for it. It's actually knowing what you've moved and what you haven't. A lot of games you can click, Civilization, I used to play that. You could click next, and you could just filter through all the units that actually have some movement left, and you can't do that in this game. And with all this sort of stuff going on, I think it's going to be quite difficult to actually really make sure you've moved everything. But at the same time, that would also sort of, counters up for the, the fact that not everything will ever always move anyway. So yeah, I mean that's pretty much that. I mean, again, it's the larger map. The only thing with the larger map, it's condensed into the actual size of Zaire, which is actually not very, it's not utilising all the extra space. Interestingly enough, Cameroon, Gabon and Republic of Congo are not involved. This little section here seems to be a bit of its own, but I think it's actually part of Angola. I would be really interested if anyone actually played this through to the end, because this has got to be a sort of a mammoth game. I mean, there are hundreds of units. I'm not sure that I can really even be bothered to. Yeah, I mean, there's about 300 units on the table. So it's a sort of game that if you really enjoy those sort of complex games, that you could. But I prefer the little simpler ones. But just looking at it is just, it does it for me. I think artillery will be important. I'm not sure. A lot of these units seem quite small. I'm not sure what will happen. It's just, it's... My brain goes into overload just trying to sort of figure out what's what to start off with. I'm sure it'll have some strategies that can be applied. But anyway, it's coming up to the 15 minutes, so I'm going to leave it at that. If you feel like you could have an easy time with this, then, feel free to sign up and give it a blast. Speak to you later. Bye.